back, baby.
Offense, you know what to do.
It's football time in Tennessee.
Get this Tennessee.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 1796 Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Normal Val Fan, joined alongside, as always, Ryan and Eli. Well, week 2 is upon us. Tennessee's first test, I guess you'd call it a test, is this weekend. NC State Wolfpack in a neutral site, which no one likes, but it's happening in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. And we're going to talk about it. Ryan, what do you think? What's your initial thoughts on how Tennessee should approach this game?
Yeah, I mean, my initial thoughts are, I really want to not take into account what NC State, had go down against Western Carolina, but it's really hard not to. Chattanooga's ranked ahead of Western Carolina in the FCS rankings, and Tennessee dominated whistle to whistle, and NC State was up 10 with 2 minutes left until a long run by their running back Waters. So, just looking at that fact, Tennessee, number one, and how they should handle this like NC State did to West Carolina, what Tennessee did to Chattanooga. They need to respect them. That this is a good team, and they will play better.
This is a athletic team, especially on offense. The defense is a little iffy to me. I didn't take much out of the game offensively from the NC State, Western Carolina, but defensively they showed a lot of holes. And if I know our offense pretty well, I feel like we're going to exploit them well. I'm excited for this game this weekend. I feel like this is last week was last week, and I just feel like this week just feels different because it's actually starting now. But I'm so pumped, and I think the Vols are. I think we got a special team on our hands, boys.
Yeah, for sure. Jim, what are your initial reads on this game?
Like you said, you can't really look at week 1. We know NC State's a good team. They got good wide receiving room. Grace McCall's not bad. I'm not gonna say he's a great quarterback, but he's a decent quarterback. But when you look at these two teams on paper, it shouldn't even be a thought of who's going to win this game. I think Tennessee, Eli talked about it before we started the podcast. On paper, Tennessee is better in every single way. From every position group, I'd say Tennessee's better. But our defensive line is going to have to win the trenches, get in the back, stop the run, and force them to throw the ball. And, our offense will do its thing. It always does. So, again, this is a game where I think Tennessee should prove what they are this year. You have to prove what they are.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's as simple as we're deeper, we're bigger, and we're just better. And all you got to do is just execute the game plan, and you should win this one comfortably. But it is an athletic team. It is an experienced team out of Raleigh. So, it could go any way. And, the second game, it is early in the season. So, we really didn't see many jitters from us last week. But, you could see him in this game. Take me back to Pitt 2022. That team should have honestly blew Pitt out, but they struggled early because we had to get some stuff out. That those second game jitters, which in all reality, boys, last week was a preseason game.
Yeah, no, like I said, both teams, you got to look at it where NC State didn't play well week 1. They're gonna be better than they were week 1, and Tennessee played, I'd say, pretty well. I won't say they played perfect, but they got to go in neutral site. Tennessee fans will show up. We talked about that. Tennessee fans will show up. It's gonna be an interesting one. I think Tennessee should win this game. And what I'm expecting is Tennessee, like I said, I think Tennessee is going to prove themselves this week. And kind of like how Miami did against Florida, where everyone thought that game, the opening spread was 2.5. Everyone thought that game was going to be close, but it wasn't. And I just think that's how it's going to go this weekend. I think Tennessee is just way more talented. They have a better quarterback, better coach, better offensive scheme, uh, top 5 defensive line. I mean, what else can you even say?
Yeah. I mean, speaking of the quarterbacks, for Grayson McCall, transfer from Coastal Carolina, now at NC State, his first start for NC State last week. I mean, he ended up having good numbers, similar to Nico's, but not as good completion percentage, and he threw an interception. But if you watch that game, everything just looked so hard for McCall. Like nothing looked easy. Where when you look at Nico's performance, everything just looked like second nature. Like he's so in tune with the
Yeah.
offense already. And I don't think that you can say the same for McCall. But moving on to some matchups, the one I'm looking at the most is Anthony Belton, NC State's left tackle, versus James Pierce, number 27 for the Vols. I just did a quick research on Anthony Belton. He's expected to go in the NFL draft pretty high, but one of his weaknesses is he has trouble against smaller, quicker edge rushers. And what is James Pierce?
A small, very fast edge rusher.
Yeah, I mean, do any of y'all want to add anything to that? Because I think James Pierce, I think it'll be a good matchup, but I think he'll end up having the upper hand easily.
Not even that. We're just gonna continuously get like fresh bodies in there to like just give him trouble. So it's like they're gonna play bend don't break with us because our defensive line it's special, and we know that, and most of the country knows that. And I'm sure they know that as well. But yeah, I mean that's easily their best. Easily their best offensive lineman. But other than that, they're pretty small across the board, and they're gonna struggle to. Honestly, I think the key to this game, the biggest key to this game is this, just like getting after the quarterback. Don't let McCall get comfortable because he can run. You just don't want to let him scramble. And it's like you're going to need to see a big day from the defensive line, which I think is possible, but also from the linebacking room, just getting after the quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, if he's allowed to sit back there and pat the ball for 3 or 4 seconds, Kevin Concepcion will get open. Noah Rogers will get open. Waters out of the backfield will get open. Our long lost brother Justin Jolie will get opened. So
Yeah, shout out to Justin, by the way. He's a cool dude.
yeah, but like again, don't let him pat the ball. Get after him. Make it real fast for him because I don't think anything was moving too fast for him against Western Carolina. But he just did not look. Again, everything looked hard for him, and that was against the Catamounts. We're talking about the Volunteers here, who is expected to have a top 10 front seven in the country. So, like, it should be a area where Tennessee can exploit. Like, I think that, like Eli said, will be one of the biggest reasons that Tennessee will come out on top.
Well, yeah, like you said though, with him struggling with small edge rushers, I mean, you can do all you want. You could try and double him. Go ahead, but you got to stop the other 3. And I just don't. I think it's gonna be a rough time for NC State. And I'm trying to keep the bias out of here because obviously, being Tennessee fans, it's hard not to, get into that rhythm of just being biased about things. But good news though when it comes to Concepcion, Ricky Gibson is probably going to be playing, which is really good news for us. He's probably our best DB. I wouldn't be surprised if McCoy is on him though, being the experienced guy.
Yep.
That's what I would do if I was Tim Banks and the defensive coaches there. Tennessee, man, they just have to get it done in the trenches, which on both sides of the ball, I think Tennessee wins. I think you just have 13, even more. We played 17 defensive linemen last week. We have plenty of guys that could go in and get it done. Davian Hobbs is going to be playing. Davian Hobbs did awesome on Saturday. I think you're going to see a lot of him. But Omar Norman Lott, Amari Thomas, I mean, Joshua Josephs, James Pierce, you name it, Jackson Moy.
Tyree West.
Yeah, Bryson Eason. I mean, you could just keep naming them, man.
There's 14
They're
guys
coming
in that
after
room.
you, and all these. I'm just saying, with these NC State players saying how just how it's going to go and all this stuff, they don't understand. Like this team is going to come with an attitude this week, and especially James Pierce. I mean, he played 10 snaps last week, and he was pissed when he came out.
Yep.
So he's gonna get a lot of action, and he's gonna be testing Anthony Belton all night.
James Pierce wants to get paid, so he's gonna play his butt off for us this year. Selfishly, honestly, to be honest, but also like reasonably, because like if you're projected first in the draft, like you're gonna want to play like the first overall pick, so you can get paid. So that's gonna be huge for the Vols this game and this season. It's like if you're gonna scheme around James Pierce, like we got something coming for you on the other side, not only but up the middle. It's like, it's a deep group. It's one of the deepest units in college football.
Yeah.
Well, and also, talk about the linebacker room. Keenan Peely was all over the field on Saturday. I mean, Aaron Carter is just a physical specimen. And again, we're going to see Boo Carter out there. Boo Carter he gets after it. And it's just him, Christian Harrison. I mean, they all look great. I'm not worried about this weekend.
Yeah. So I have a question for both of y'all. So would you rather see Tennessee and the defensive front try to get home with 4 and play coverage, or just bring the rancid dick heat at McCall all night?
Oh, give him pressure. I think that's the only reason. Like, I think we're quick enough to get to him. Plus, it's like, the guys he has, it's going to be tough to get it out quick, especially if we're playing press man.
Yeah. Yeah. Jim?
I'm on the same side. I'm not saying every single play do that.
No, of course not.
But I mean, yeah, get after him. You get in that backfield and make him feel you early. When your legs are fresh and going, make him feel you early. Make him worried. I mean, he's going to be worried about his blind side. I mean, no one in this world is not going to be worried about James Pierce coming from behind. I mean, and then, like I said, you got all the other guys that are coming after you. As long as the DBs can keep people in front of them and keep big plays from happening, again, it's hard. It's kind of crazy. I thought the spread was going to be a little bit longer for Tennessee. Minus 7.5. I think it's down to 6.5 now. But I thought it'd be a little bit bigger.
It's so easy to compare this game to the 2022 Pitt game, just because I don't know if y'all remember this, but I'm pretty sure their starting quarterback went out, right? If I'm not mistaken. We got after him and we gave them pressure, and we hurt their quarterback, and it was just like we were in his head all day. And it's like, hey, if we're getting hits on the quarterback, even if he does get it out or makes a good reception, those are going to add up, especially over 4 quarters. And we're a physical football team on both sides of the football. We're a huge, huge SEC football team. And I think that's a key to the game, aggressiveness. You have to be aggressive, especially on defense, because this is a talented offense that NC State has. Conception and Noah Rogers are probably future NFL players, whether that be practice squad or not. But also Jolie is he's a unit out there at tight end. He's on the smaller end, but it's hey, they're good, they're athletic, and it's if you got to get to McCall, who's going to be the root of the being there on offense for them.
Yeah, for sure. So what I was thinking when I posed that question to both of y'all, I think when James Pierce is in the game, you drop 7. When he's not, you bring 5 or 6. Because I think James Pierce on the edge, without them worrying about a blitz, is going to get home 40, 50% of the time to the quarterback, at least get a hit on him. I think if I were Tim Banks, that's what I would do. And when James Pierce is in the game and he gets that pressure and you have 7 back there, if it's an errant pass, you might see some interceptions from McCall. So that's how I would approach it. Um, moving on to their skill players, which I think NC State has a very, very, very good wide receiver room. Concepcion is really good. He's going to get his no matter what Tennessee does, I think. But the whole key is keep him in front. Don't let when he catches the ball be a 30, 40-yard gain, you know?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I was saying. I think you got to keep them in front of you and just let the defensive line get to work. I mean, you got to tackle well. And again, they have weapons, but if you pressure McCall, man, it's gonna be hard to use those weapons. So I expect them to test our DBs early, though. I really do. I don't think they're gonna attack us with the run because I think they know that we're very well prepared in the trenches.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got a good quarterback, but you know I think you got to, like we said before, you got to get after him early, let him know you're there, and I'd be getting in his head too. You know they are. You know they're gonna be. Tyree West is gonna be talking.
our safeties are key in this one, boys. I feel like Turrentine's gonna have a big day for because like Jim said, they're gonna be throwing it because they know our defensive line and our whole front seven is different. And I'm gonna be honest there. I think that like they're gonna throw the ball quite a bit, and our safeties are gonna be key. Like they gotta fly to the ball when they see the ball, and especially if it's caught. Like you got to get to Conception, and you got to get to Noah Rogers and Jolie before they get a big game because all three of those guys are good after the catch.
Yeah, for sure. I think, Tennessee's whole secondary versus their passing attack is also big. When Tennessee can't get home, how do they perform? Are they, playing off and giving them, the 5 to 10 yard receptions? Are they pressing and giving up nothing? It'll be interesting to see how they approach their skill players. Will they try to double Concepcion? Will they, put one of the safeties on Justin Jolie? I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, that offense can attack you in a lot of ways, but just watching that game against Western Carolina, it looks like they want to do a lot of their passing off of play action. So if Tennessee can stop the run and keep that, in check, I don't think their passing game will be as effective as it even was last week.
That's why I think our linebackers are so key in this game because the run, Jordan Waters is a very patient back, and I've watched the uh, game the other day, last Thursday, and he was kind of like just sneaking through the line, and it's like it's important for Peely and Carter to close out and fill those gaps, um, this week, especially when with Waters being there and being such a patient back, like you want to stuff the run. You don't want to give them their own to open up the passing game because they're going to want to pass. I mean, even last week they wanted to pass. Like I'm pretty sure that McCall threw 40 passes. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
they're going to want to pass. So you're going to have to stuff the run, and if you stuff the run, that just helps the defense fully all around. Because if you can't get on, that's the key I have on offense. Establish the run so we can throw the ball downfield.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing Tennessee's defense has done for the last 2 years, really, even in 2022, it's stopped the run. And
Ex-
last year,
except against Missouri.
yeah. I mean, that game was doomed from the start, but there's no need to rehash that slop fest. But the yeah, if Tennessee stops the run and if Tennessee could run, the so-called winning in the trenches, which Tennessee, I would I would bet a lot of money that they have the advantage both ways in the trenches. It's going to be hard for NC State to get much done. So, do y'all have any more thoughts on Tennessee's defense versus NC State's offense?
Well, I don't think so.
I'm good now. I think I've said all I needed to.
Yeah. Okay, so uh, I read this today, and I mentioned it on the Chattanooga recap. But Tennessee played 30 players in the first quarter against Chattanooga. NC State played 19 players on defense the entire game against Western Carolina. Um, I think if that's a lack of depth, I don't know if that's just the game was too close for them to feel comfortable putting in some of the depth pieces. I don't know. But either way, I think that is a big time issue against Tennessee's tempo because even if they were just holding out some of those players that they might trust a little bit, but they didn't put them in just because of how the game was, they won't be experienced enough to go up against a mock speed offense that Tennessee has.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to stop Dylan Sampson, Cam Seldon, and Deshaun Bishop, and then worry about four very good receivers. I mean, we have more than four, but there's four stud receivers we have. I mean, you got to worry about Squirrel White, Brazel, Brew McCoy, Dante Thornton, and also Ethan Davis and Holden Stays. I mean, they're gonna have a rough time. They're gonna have a rough time. Again, I'm trying to keep the bias out of it, but NC State is gonna struggle.
No, their defense struggled against Western Carolina, and
And they couldn't throw the ball.
No, and I'm telling you, like, I think the most important thing is definitely establishing the run in this one, because if you can, like, think about it like this: our wide receivers. I don't know if y'all have just watched them block. Sometimes when I know it's a running down, I'll watch our wide receivers. They're so aggressive at the point of contact. Even Squirrel White gets pushed back, and like if you're out there just constantly like roughing up the corners, they're gonna get tired. And like next thing you know, it's like, hey, you know how fast like Brazel, even Thornton and Squirrel are, like they're just gonna get past you, and that's how you're gonna see the passing game open up. Like, it's run, and it's like they can't stop, so they start to stack the box a little bit, and then that's when you see like a Squirrel running free up the seam.
Yeah.
And can we talk about how Squirrel White didn't really do anything Saturday?
Yeah, I think Squirrel's ready to bust out of his cage. I mean, wherever they line him up, which will most likely be in the slot, like they have to worry about number one, the run game, because Tennessee's offense is pick your poison. You either stack the box and get passed on, or you don't stack the box and get ran on. So if they choose to stack the box, Squirrel's going to just run to the goalpost or whoever, Squirrel, Thornton, Brazel. Like, and like you said, Squirrel's bursting at the seams at this point. He didn't have the year that everybody wanted him to last year, whether it be because of the quarterback play, which is what I think, or just all that went on offense last year that slowed us down. But yeah, I'm expecting Squirrel to have a breakout game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, the NC State didn't get tested last week on the passing game, and you have to worry about Nico Iamaliava. And we talked about it already. He didn't even run the ball. I mean, you also have to worry about him running. So if he gets pressured, and JD from On 3 even said it, Nico's comfortable. I mean, look at him in high school. When he got pressured, he ran. And you got to worry about that. And when the box is spread out and you're worried about the wide receivers, he's going to have a hole to run. And
they run a
he's quick
3-3-5 too, so they run a very empty box at times, which, like, especially against a like SEC team, like we're definitely bigger. Their defensive line is not big at all.
Yeah,
and a very experienced offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Because look at Spraggins. Spraggins didn't really play on Saturday. They took him out, and he's gonna be playing the whole game this week.
Yeah, I mean, Hurd was, Larry Johnson was spelling him at left tackle. Dane Davis was spelling John Campbell at left tackle. I mean, Tennessee was doing a lot of shuffling on that offensive line and still had the success they had. And when you have your first unit, assuming that they have their first unit in the entire game, I mean, there's no telling what Tennessee's run game could do, how much they can keep Nico upright to make the laser throws he made. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And I wanted to talk about this now. Like, I don't think NC State has a chance if we get our playmakers out in space, whether it be Dylan Sampson on a swing pass, just some of those curls where the defenders are playing off and they're, having to close down 5 yards to make a play. I mean, I think they will struggle big time in that aspect.
No, for
No.
sure. I mean, their DB core is their strength, and they really didn't impress me against a team like Western Carolina. But yeah, getting your athletes in space is always a huge thing, especially the athletes we have. Like we have some, like Tennessee is recruited well in the Josh Heupel era, and it's like we got some special athletes in space, and they're fun to watch when they're out there. And it's just like that's important, like getting your athletes in space. You hear that in football all the time, but it's so crucial. And like I was gonna say, like Nico really doesn't have to do much in this game. Like he just take what it's what he did against Chattanooga. He took what they gave him, and he ran with it. He ended up breaking the single half record for passing yards in Tennessee history by just taking what Chattanooga was giving him. Like throwing your curl routes when they needed to be thrown, just hitting your guy up the seam when they're open. Throwing it to your check down. It's like he needs to be smart because their secondary is going to disguise a lot. Like their coach, their defensive coordinator loves to hide formations and play with Nico, and it's really going to be a test for him if he can just take what he's given. I think we can go out there and win this game comfortably.
For sure. Um, so I like again just watching their game against Western Carolina. Whenever the Catamounts would run any type of RPO, any type of play action, their linebackers looked like they were like their heads were spinning around. Like they were going full exorcist whenever they had anything, any kind of eye candy, any kind of watching in the backfield. And Tennessee's offense is a lot of that. So that's another area where they could struggle big time.
They did lose Caden Fordham early in that game, which
Yeah,
that's their best. That's easily their best linebacker. Um, so that I see a little improvement there, but yeah, that they got their other linebacker is Sean Brown. He's a moved down from safety, so it's like he's still kind of learning the position. Like this is NC State. Like they had a lot of jitters in that first games because like they have a lot of like on both sides of the ball. They're trying to like mesh athletes everywhere, and they're really trying to find their identity on both sides of the ball. And like I feel like Tennessee's like we have a team that's been together for a little. Like we got a little bit of a chemistry going on there. Nico's been in this offense for a year. Our defense is kind of meshing well. It's like we have experience everywhere. It's like that's why we saw what we saw last week. And NC State, I feel like they're still going to struggle. They're still going to try to find their identity, and that's why I think the Vols take this one at big time.
yeah, for sure. I mean, if NC State is one starting linebacker away from struggling against an FCS offense, I mean, what's going to happen against Tennessee? I mean, that's all I got to say about that. You know, um, Jim, who do you expect just on the entire Tennessee offense, save for Nico, will have a big game?
Uh, I mean, we talked about him already. I think there's two on the offensive side. I think Dylan Sampson is going to have a day, and I think Squirrel White. I think those two are really you're gonna see a lot of them because, like I said, I mean NC State has not been tested by guys like this. On the defensive side, again, I think James Pierce is gonna come out for blood. I think you're gonna see James Pierce. I think you're gonna see the whole defensive unit do well. I'm gonna shout out the whole defense. I think the defense is gonna show that they're not to be messed with this year.
Yeah. What about you, Eli?
Uh, Definitely Dylan Sampson. I expect us to go out there and play our game, which is establish the run and throw from there. But like a sleeper on offense, and I mean, we saw it's not really a sleeper because we know he's a dog. Brew McCoy, I think he's going to go out there and show his physicality, and he gets open, and him and Nico have shown a great connection in the one game we saw them together in, and I expect a big game from him. But on the defensive side of the ball, a dude that impressed me against Chattanooga was Tyree West. I think he's going to have a big game against NC State, especially if they're heavy on James Pierce. I feel like he's going to come around the other edge and he's going to get the job done where like we're lacking or where they're double teaming Pierce. And also Keenan Pili, I think he has a chance to put on a big performance and really show like why we went after him in the portal 2 years ago and what we missed out on last year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, much like Tennessee's offense is pick your poison with the stacking the box and or not and going from there. Tennessee's defensive line this year is pick your poison. It is, do you want to double James Pierce or do you want to not double him and let him eat? Because if you double him, strong side defensive end Tyree West is getting home, Caleb Herring's getting home, Joshua Joseph is getting home. Take your pick. I mean, I think Tennessee has the chance to pair an explosive offense with a truly elite front seven for the first time in Heupel's tenure. I mean, last year we all know the offensive struggles, so it didn't happen last year, even though the front seven was pretty good. But this year, I think that is what's going to separate this year's team from Heupel's previous teams.
Yeah,
I definitely
agree.
think this is the best team we've seen in the Heupel era. I don't think that's a crazy take either. I mean, Hendon Hooker was special, and him and Hyatt and that offense was the reason what we did in 2022. But this team is complete, and they're hungry, and they're gonna go get it done, boys.
No doubt, no doubt. Did y'all catch any of Josh Heupel's press conference yesterday?
Just a little bit.
Well, Jim, did you notice how locked in he looked? He was either locked in or dead tired because he was stoic. He was giving short answers. The whole press conference lasted like what 10 minutes. Like it looks like a guy who was ready to go out and take care of business on Saturday in Charlotte.
That's just how he is in press conferences, though. I really don't like. I used to watch a lot of the press conferences. I don't really anymore because he is very short. He doesn't want to reveal much, and like honestly, I want that from my coach, and I love to see that.
Yeah,
But
for
like
sure. I mean,
he's a special coach. He's a special mind on offense, and him and Nico have the same mentality. It's like, hey, like we're gonna go get it done. We're going to business, and we mean business, and I love that.
yeah, I mean it's better than the alternative where Billy Napier is talking shit about his own fan base in his press conference and struggling to open a damn water bottle. But like that's the best thing about Heupel.
We could
He
have
is
Shane Beamer or or
yeah. Shane Beamer reminds me so much of Butch Jones. It is not even funny. He's he's Butch Jones with a legendary coach as a father. That's all
or
he is.
Drinkwitz. Drinkwitz is annoying in press conferences too.
So speaking of coaches, I want to talk about NC State's coach Dave Doeren for just a minute or two. Um, I, I I was on campus the week after Tennessee tried to hire, you know, rapist apologist, you know, Greg Schiano. All this is alleged, but I was there. We were pretty much wanting anybody other than Greg Schiano, and we went Monday. It was Mike Gundy who turned us down. Tuesday, I think it was TCU's old coach Dave Patterson, maybe. I don't remember the name, but on Wednesday it was Dave Doeren who was leaked out as a possible candidate, and we had a basketball game that night, and we all were the whole student section planned this on Twitter just to chant "Fire John Curry" during that game because of wanting to hire Dave Doeren. Again, we were looking for anybody other than Greg Schiano, but not Dave Doeren. Um, Doeren left Northern Illinois to go to NC State, and Northern Illinois he was there for 2 years. Took them to heights they had never seen. Got them to an Orange Bowl, but before that Orange Bowl, he left and took the NC State job, and he's been there since. And his record has been 3-9, 8-5, 7-6, 7-6, 9-4, 9-4, 4-8, 8-4, 9-3, 8-5. I don't think he should have taken the NC State job.
Bring me John Gruden.
The whole point of that is to say that the only reason he's still at NC State is because NC State is fine with those kinds of records, because NC State has literally never finished a season ranked in the top 10. And for them and their fan base to be thinking they have a shot in this one, it's just it's
Laughable.
uncouth. It's uncouth and just it's disgusting.
Yeah, I will say, having those orange tinted glasses on in the past has blinded me in a lot of senses. But like they do have a good squad. They have a talented squad, especially on offense. Like there are a lot of holes on the NC State defense. They lost their best player last year, but having an offense with all that talent, like you can like get a little big headed, and like I've seen it in the past with my own team. But like realistically, the ACC is wide open, and I could see them going and winning 10 games this season.
Well, all that's fine and dandy, but that doesn't mean they have a chance against the big orange. Jim, please take it and run for a few minutes.
What do you want me to run with? NC State trash?
Yep, that's exactly what I want you to run with.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, this weekend they have no chance. They have no chance. I really do think Tennessee wins by 2 touchdowns, at least.
I mean, the absolute lunacy I've seen on Twitter under the 1796 Sports account, even like them claiming that Western Carolina would beat Chattanooga, even though Chattanooga was picked to win the SoCon in the preseason. Them claiming that Kevin Concepcion will catch 12 passes for 200 yards and all this other garbage. If your coach is a perennial 7 to 9 win coach and you're fine with that, that shows what kind of program you are.
Oh, don't get me started, bro. Chattanooga, bro. That's my hometown team. They're winning the SoCon. They're not worse than Western Carolina. I promise that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy, but I'll get off it. It just annoyed me. I wanted to touch on it for a few minutes. But Eli, let's start with you. What is your prediction and maybe a few keys to the game?
I think Tennessee wins this one, and they win this one handily. I think I'm gonna go 45-28 Vols. I think they're gonna. Maybe NC State will get a garbage time touchdown. I just think we're going to handle this game well. I'm not really worried about it as I would be in the past. But I got 6 keys to the game, 3 offensive and 3 defensive. The 3 offensive are, number 1, establishing the run and exerting that physicality on a defense that's smaller than you. Number 2 is Nico limiting his mistakes, not putting the ball at risk, really, like taking what he's given. And then limiting penalties on the offensive side of the ball, because we know penalties kill. For my defensive keys to the game, I have getting after McCall and containing him, because he can run and he can get out of the pocket. And if we're after him all day, it's gonna be a rough day for the NC State offense. Number 2, stuffing the run. We got to put a stop to Waters, because if they establish the run, the pass game's going to open up. And then limiting mistakes in the secondary is a huge one for me, because, the secondary is, it's our worst position group. We know that, and they're going to get tested in this one because NC State has a really good offense. They're going to get their own in the pass game. They're, Conception's going to eat. Noah Rogers is going to catch his, and we know Justin Jolly's good from the game he played in Neyland last year. So it's like, just limiting the mistakes there is huge for me. But that's all I got. I'm taking the Vols in a rout. And I think the country's going to go on notice Saturday.
All right. So what I'm thinking, my prediction, I'll start with my keys to the game first, actually. So as much as college football has evolved, even still it stays the same. If you win in the trenches, you're going to win the ball game. And I said it earlier. I'm not convinced NC State has an advantage in the trenches on either side of the ball. Our defensive line is better than their offensive line, and we'll get after McCall. our offensive line is better than their defensive line, and we will be able to run the ball. We will be able to keep Nico upright. That's number one. We're going to control the trenches. I mean, that's all there is to it. It's SEC versus ACC. You can call us SEC homers all you want, but that's just all there is to it. If you win 8, 9, sometimes even 7 games in the ACC every year, you would go 6-6 in the SEC at best. Again, call me an
You're
SEC.
South Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect.
You don't
That's
want to be
who-
South Carolina.
That's who they would be. I mean, that's spot on. But moving on from that, I also said this earlier. The playmakers in space against NC State's defense, I really believe they have no chance. I mean, if you get Brew on the outside, he might break 3 tackles every time he catches the ball. If you get Thornton or Brazel running up the middle on a skinny post, good luck catching him. If you get Sampson on the swing pass, good luck to the first defender on even touching him. Like, I just don't think they can keep up in space with our offense. And finally, my final key would be, well, it's not really a key. It's just what I think is going to happen. Nico is going to announce himself on a national level as a Heisman Trophy contender,
And the best country and the best quarterback in the country.
Yeah, exactly.
I
mean,
really do think he's the best quarterback in the country. That might be a hot take, but I tweeted it out earlier, and I'm confident in it. And I'm never like that, but he is special. I think he's the best draft prospect in college football right now.
I mean, he really and truly looks like the next great college football quarterback, and I really don't think that's hyperbole.
We talked about it on the last podcast. I don't think it's far fetched to say, like, even on the outside, like, he's top 5 right now, because like me and a couple friends were sitting there naming quarterbacks, and it's like I think he's better than the fringe top 5, because the quarterback class this year is not great. But I definitely think Nico is definitely a top 5 quarterback in college football right now.
Yeah, for sure. But again, I mean, the way he looked against Chattanooga for just a half, he only threw 28 passes. And I really think Tennessee was forcing the pass, honestly, just to get him ready for this week. And even bigger than that, there was not one designed quarterback run. And I think that's going to be one of his strengths. And even more than that, the very first play of the game against Chattanooga was him breaking the contain of the defensive line of Chattanooga and getting outside and finding a receiver, throwing a dot to Brazel on the sideline for a first down. I mean, his improvisation will be one of his biggest calling cards, I think. And I just think he's going to show out. I think he's going to show out, and I think people across the country will take notice because he's doing it against a decent opponent. And like you said, Eli, I think NC State does have a chance in the ACC, no matter how this game goes. I think they're a great opponent.
We got a chance to add a notch on our belt to, like, for a college football playoff case, especially if we lose 2 games.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this could give the team the confidence to get past like an Oklahoma. You win a game like this, and the way we think it's going to go, I mean, if you win like that, you get to an Oklahoma game with a lot more confidence to take care of business.
Yeah, showing that you've already done it against an out-of-conference opponent that has a chance in their conference, and then going to still feels like an out-of-conference opponent on the road. I mean, but yeah, I totally agree, Jim. I mean, this is a confidence-building opportunity, and I think Tennessee will capitalize. And I think I'm going with the exact same offensive points that you had, Eli, with 45. But I really think Tennessee holds NC State to 17. I really think this is not even close by middle of the third quarter.
Oh, that's what I was saying. I said they're going to score a couple. They're going to score late in garbage time when we have the backups in on defense.
I don't even think they'll score on our backups. So
Interesting.
Jim, are you ready to give your game prediction?
I'm not. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. I agree with the 45 number, and I agree with the 17 number. I think Tennessee hands them just a big L. I think Tennessee takes care of business, man. I don't know what else to say, but other than that,
Yeah.
Also, I do want to make a point from way earlier in the podcast. Grayson McCall had the same stats as Nico, but he played the whole game. So,
And he had a pick.
Against a FCS school that's worse than the team we played.
I mean, exactly. I mean, I think that's all there is to it, really, tonight. I mean, we all think Tennessee will roll. The only way I see it being close is if Tennessee's secondary is like playing like sixth graders. I mean, that's the only way NC State has a chance.
And God forbid an injury that we don't want to see.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to say it. Not even going to speak it into existence.
And I don't think that'll happen. I think they're keeping the Prince who was promised upright the entire game.
Let's go.
Anybody else got any more thoughts before we sign off this evening?
Nope, not me. It's going to be a nice win under our belt this week.
Yeah, check out my article. It's going to come out later this week. I'm going to go way in depth on this game. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a good piece. That's all I got.
Awesome. All right, boys. I guess that'll do it. Go Vols.
Go Vols.
Go Vols.